Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Pranamahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 10th day of June, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 4 entitled Transcendental Knowledge, text 25 at the bottom of page 211. Oh. Please don't put the sheets on the floor. You can, yeah, you can put it, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Daivamevapare yagyam yogina payupasate brahmagnavapare yagyam yagyenaivopajuphati Daivamevapare yagyam yoginak payupasate brahmagnavapare yagyam yajnaivopajuvati Daivamevapare yagyam yoginak payupasate brahmagnavapare yagyam yajnaivopajuvati. Want to try? Go ahead now. Daivamevapare yagyam yoginak payupasate brahmagnavapare yagyam yajnaivopajuvati. You want to check? Daivamevapare yagyam yoginak payupasate brahmagnavapare yagyam yajnaivopajuvati. Daivamevapare yagyam yoginak payupasate brahmagnavapare yagyam yajnaivopajuvati. Any of you want to try it? Either of you? Daivamevapare yagyam yoginak payupasate brahmagnavapare yagyam yajnaivopajuvati. Okay. Anyone online? I know you're not there, Chad, but there may be someone else.
Daivamevapare yagnam
Daivamevapare yagyam
yogina paryupasate
yoginak payupasate
brahmagna apare yagnam
brahmagnavapare yagyam
yajnanayivo uchayvati
yajnaivopajuvati.
uvati.
Okay, word by words, I'll read you just read along silently. Daivam, in worshipping the demigods. Eva, like this, apade, some others. Yagyam, sacrifices. Yoginaha, mystics. Payupasate, worship perfectly. Brahma, of the absolute truth. Agnau, in the fire. Apade, others. Yagyam, sacrifice. Yagena, by sacrifice. Eva, thus, upajuvati, offer. Translation. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Purport. As described above, a person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or a first-class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman, or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonalists sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of all material functions like the heating, watering, and lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called Bhav Ishvara Vadi, or believers in many gods. But others who worship the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth and regard the forms of the demigods as temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire and thus end their individual existences by merging into the existence of the Supreme. Such impersonalists sacrifice their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme. In other words, the fruitive workers sacrifice their material possessions for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonalist sacrifices his material designations with a view to merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalist, the first altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of Brahman. The Krishna-conscious person, like Arjuna, however, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus all his material possessions, as well as his own self, everything is sacrificed for Krishna. Thus he is the first-class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, this chapter is entitled Transcendental Knowledge, and Krishna has been giving knowledge of the sacrifice. How we can sacrifice our time, we can sacrifice our effort, in order to achieve certain goals. And it's all based on knowledge. If one is very knowledgeable of the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas and wants to try to get to the heavenly planets to enjoy like anything, so he may learn those sacrifices in detail and go to yogis or scholars who know it, and one may indeed get to the heavenly planets. But it's not our final goal. There's no eternal life in Indraloka. Indra himself is mortal ultimately, right? So Krishna says, I think in the 7th chapter, Kamais taistai rita jnana papadyante anya devata tam tamevaiti kunteya sadatad bhava bhavita. That one whose consciousness is bewildered or attracted by varieties of material enjoyment. Kamais taistai means anything. Rittagana, that can take away your transcendental knowledge. In other words, you become enthralled with that. And even not, forget for a minute the idea of going to heaven and all of these different things, but just performing sacrifice of going to school, studying very hard, getting into a good school, getting a degree in computer science so that you can get a good job and become comfortable in this world and be happy. But it's a mirage. Because ultimately, time takes it all away. That's what asat means, right? We're in this world of asat, the things that are temporary, they're constantly changing. So even if we may sacrifice very hard, and hard work, in order to achieve a social position, economic position, financial position, that is a tragic waste of human life, actually, according to the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the whole mission of human life is to make an end to this round of birth, old age, disease, and death, samsara. And Krishna, he emphasizes this in the 13th chapter, where he gives a whole list of elements that we need in order to attain real knowledge. And the very first one is amanitvam, means humility, and adambitvam, means freedom from hypocrisy, false pride. And he goes on, and I think it's near the top 10, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam. To always remain aware of the real solid difficulties of birth, old age, disease, and death, which are inherent as soon as, not just human beings, there's dogs, cats, birds, whales, they all take birth, and they stay for some time, they grow, they may have offspring, and then they dwindle and they die. So what happens to the soul? The soul doesn't die. This is kind of the first lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. In the 2nd chapter, there's a whole 20 or 30 verses on the nature of the soul. And kind of one of the main verses there is Najayate Mriyate Va Kadachan. Nayam Budva Bhavita Va Nabuya Ajo Nitya Shashvato Yam Purano Nahanyate Hanyamane Sharire. Krishna is trying to encourage Arjuna to fight. And in doing this, he's saying, everyone on this battlefield is going to die, except you, Pandavas. You won't die right away. But everyone's going to get killed, you see? But no one dies, because you are the soul. The soul is immortal. Aja, Nitya, Shasvata, he emphasized again and again. Unborn, eternal, ever-existing, primeval. Nahanyate hanyamane shriri. The soul is not killed or does not die when the body dies. This is the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. Now, if we believe that, that should change our whole structure of what we aspire for in this life. Because it's foolish to aspire for all the different kinds of things which are simply related to the body. Suppose you're successful in making money and you get a high salary and you put it away in the bank. Okay, I've got, well, $10,000, $100,000 in the bank. Now I really got it going, you know. But that bank, that money has your name on it. But that's not your name. That's the name of your body. So eventually you will be separated from that money. You may spend it, you may maybe inherit it or something. But it's really a delusion of the soul. How can we direct our energies to our eternal benefit? What is the real goal? So the preliminary goal is to get free from birth, old age, disease, and death, to break free from that. And Prabhupada is describing like the impersonalists. He keeps talking about the impersonalists. They have an idea how they get liberation, mukti. And they don't believe in a personal God. Their understanding the supreme absolute truth, the source of everything, is Brahman, the effulgent light of Brahman, undifferentiated light, pure consciousness. And that's who we are. Now, if we can regain that state and merge into Brahman, we'll be free of birth and death. We won't have a material body. We'll just be pure consciousness. But how boring that would be. There's no Krishna. There's no activity. There's just white light. I always give this analogy. You may have heard of, or I don't know if you've even experienced, the sensory deprivation chambers they have. You know, have you ever heard of that? Where you lie in the water, it's perfect temperature, you know, not too hot, not too cold. And because I think they put salt in there, you can float in there. And there's no sense, it just, you know, there's no sensory input. And at first it's, oh, what a relief. Let me just lie in here, you know, and just. But at a certain point, you say, wait a minute, I got to go to work. I got to go home and cook dinner for my kids. You know, I got stuff to do. So you have to come out of that. It's not your eternal, you know, home. You know, so it's like that. If you're able to, and there's a verse from the 10th canto. You know, Janmashtami is coming up. It's always coming up. It'll be in a few months, but it'll come up. And we hear in the 10th canto of the Bhagavad Purana the details of Krishna's birth. You know, you may have been familiar with that. So one thing that happens is that Krishna's going to take birth in that dungeon of Kamsa, right? That's where Devaki and Vasudeva are. They've been imprisoned. And Krishna is not the sixth, but the eighth child, So it's a big event, and Kamsa is just waiting for that eighth child, you know, because he's been predicted to kill him, so he'll definitely try to kill the eighth child. So Vasudeva has a plan to take Krishna to Vrindavan, you know. So, but before, Krishna's in the womb of Devaki, and the time is coming, and the demigods come down, and kind of they're hidden, but they offer these prayers. And one of the prayers goes like this. They're speaking directly to Krishna, and they've been praising the devotees of Krishna. And this verse they say, Ye and ye arabindaksya vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhaya aruha kritrena padam padangtata patantyadho anadvita yushmarangriya. Now this verse is very important because they're explaining that those who, first they say, oh Krishna, even though he's in the womb, they're still addressing him directly. There are others besides your devotees. Ye anye, O lotus-eyed Lord, Adabindaksha, vimuktamaninas, who think that they're liberated. They think they're, but they're not really liberated. Vimuktamaninas, ye anye Adabindaksha, vimuktamaninas, tvai ashtabhavat avishuddha buddhaya. Their intelligence is not really purified. But some of them, not all, because it's very difficult. Aruha, they rise up, kritrena, by severe austerities. Much more severe than us devotees. You know, devotees, we get up really early. That's an austerity. 3:30, 3 o'clock, you know, come to Mangalartik. We may take a cold shower, may take a semi-cold shower, and then we chant for some hours. So this is, it's just austere to be up that early. And then some of us, devotees, we have devotees who go out and they try to sell books. And so there are definitely austerities, you see. But nothing like, but our aim is not to merge into Kaivalya, into Brahman. We simply want to awaken that original bhakti for Krishna, which is there, So, but the impersonalists, they have to tamp down and they have to control these natural urges that are there. They don't have Krishna bhakti to take their attention and purify. So they perform kutrena. The very word means severe austerities. Sometimes it's said, oh, it's summertime, it's nice and hot, it's 130 or something Fahrenheit. Let's go out into the desert and we'll sit there and build some fires around us. Then we'll really get benefit, severe austerity. Wintertime, freezing cold, oh, let's take a bath in the Ganges up near Gangotri. It's almost freezing. Then we'll really get benefit, So they do extreme austerities. We don't do that. They may come upon us, but our program is not so severe. It's not necessary. But if you're trying to completely burn out any of your desire for comfort and all these material things, then that can help, these severe austerities. So they perform these, and a few of them, they may rise up to Brahman. Okay, not all, but some. Aruha kutrena param padam. Param padam means the transcendental situation, Brahman. But patantyado, they fall down again. Anadvita yushmadangriya, because they are reversed to serving your lotus feet. The point is that we are by nature persons. This is a covering on the person. That each of us has this kind of this coat on, different coat, And as Krishna, he gives this analogy in the second chapter. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Just as at a certain point, this sweatshirt, which I've had for a while, will be tattered and I'll have to discard it, No biggie, because I'm still around. But meanwhile, the body itself is actually a coat over the soul. It's a very, very complicated machine. And eventually, as you get older, you realize, oh, this is wearing out. I can't do this anymore, And eventually, this doesn't work anymore. And then you have to leave it. It can be very painful. That's death. Old age, disease, and death. But you're not going to die. You'll go to another body. Now, if we really want to use our intelligence, we should, following the Shastra, following the Gurus, the Sadhus, we should act in such a way that our consciousness at that point of death won't take us to another material body. It'll take us to the lotus feet of Krishna. This is the whole point of Krishna consciousness. And we have assurance from a whole line of Guru's disciples, the Parantapa, the Parampara, sorry. That this is possible to do. We talk of Srila Prabhupada, his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. By their lives and their life story, we can see they're not sense gratifiers. They're all very austere. They're leading simple devotee lives, cultivating knowledge, and showing compassion by giving this knowledge to others, which can save anyone from hundreds of thousands of more births and cycles in material life. This is the greatest welfare work, giving this knowledge and a practice of Krishna consciousness. Even if you don't succeed in this one life, as Krishna assures in the 6th chapter and also 2nd chapter, then you'll take birth in a family, probably a devotee family. You can continue it in the next life. So if you see your life as a continuum of birth and death, says, okay, so let me make as much progress as possible. And then the wonderful thing is nothing is lost. Anything material you get, we read about these billionaires, multi-billionaires. Oh man, I wish I was one of those. Maybe I'll just play the lottery. I'll make it 100. It's silly, because when you build up all that and what you have to do to get all that money, you don't even think about that, sinful activities. But even if you have it, then what happens at the time of death? The money stays in the bank and the gold, wherever you have it. You go somewhere else. And what you had to do to make that money probably take you into a lower birth next time. Whereas a simple devotee who's not doing any harm to anyone, but rather serving Krishna and trying to enlighten others with Krishna consciousness, then he doesn't have any need to come back. There's no sinful activities, sinful reactions left. It's so important to read about and hear about the glories of the Hare Krishna mantra, the name of Krishna in general, but the Hare Krishna mantra. that this name is so potent that even, like here's one verse I'll give you. I think it's not from Bhagavatam, but it's often quoted. Madhura Madhura Metan, Mangalam Mangalanam, Sakananigamavalli, Satpalam Chitswarupam, Sakrirapipadigītam, Shraddhaya Helayava, Bhagavata Nadamatram Tadiyet Krishna Nama. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of all the Vedic teachings, it's the transcendental fruit, the very form of spirit, unalloyed and absolute. When uttered even once with faith, or uttered once with none, from birth and death it surely will deliver anyone. And in the end, it brings pure love for Krishna, life's true aim. So cast away all doubt and chant Shri Krishna's holy name. I put it into a little poem. So the idea is that the chanting is so powerful that eons of sinful reactions that are waiting for us, to take fruit, you know how it works. The previous births, we don't know, but those reactions can come and manifest in this lifetime. So they're wiped out even by once chanting, especially purely. If you chant without any material motive and you're chanting just to please Krishna. So this is the power of the chanting of the holy name. What a great gift. And we're giving out freely here. You want it? There it is. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya came to give that, and his followers try to follow in his footsteps and experience the benefits of this. And one of the things is, after all, what are we looking for in this world? We're looking for happiness, right? We're looking for pleasure, and if it's really deep, then we call it happiness. But the prospect of being happy on the material plane is really tragically wrong. It can't come. Just like now in this world, is that when I was growing up, I grew up in the 50s and the 60s. I'm 77 years old. And we didn't know anything about climate change. I was born in a blizzard. I didn't know anything about the blizzard. I was this little baby, but my parents told me, yeah, there's a lot of snow, So, okay, there's that. And then there's rain and this and that, but we never thought that the whole climate can turn and everything, these horrific storms that we have now, that wasn't part of my growing up. But we had atom bombs. Which I was born in 1947, so the first bomb was blown up in Japan, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, to end World War II. So I'm growing up, and we'd go to the movies, and they would show the explosion of the atom bombs, and then we had the hydrogen bombs, and the Russians have so many bombs, and oh my God, these can come down on us. So that's like a constant fear, anxiety. So that's there. In previous ages, they didn't have that, but they had other things. They had huge armies coming over the horizon and taking over. And material life is like that, especially in Kali Yuga. So when I learned about Krishna consciousness, I was interested in Hatha Yoga, and then I went to the studio, and eventually I came in touch with the devotees, and I was very interested in philosophy. And we have a book called the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada wrote that before the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because he didn't know how much time he had, but he wanted these teachings of Lord Chaitanya to be available. So he took the essential teachings out, and he made a beautiful book out of it. And when I read that, I was enthralled with the whole, teachings of it, and I wanted to know more. And by Prabhupada's effort, there was a temple within driving distance in Brooklyn. I was living on a place called Long Island near New York. And I started to visit the temple. And meeting the devotees was such a wonderful thing. They were so kind. One devotee always took me down. Now you have to take prasadam, Tom. My name was Tom, Bhakta Tom. And so he'd take me down to the prasadam room. And he would give me rice and dal or whatever it was, And then as I was taking the prasadam, he would be telling me about Krishna consciousness. And gradually I became attracted to become a devotee, and I was very fortunate. I remember the day I moved in. And it wasn't easy, adjusting to the cold shower, lack of sleep, all of these things, But I said, I'm going to go through it, and after a while it became routine. It wasn't so austere. So the idea is that this chapter, the knowledge by which we can direct our activities and build a certain consciousness, purify our consciousness so that more and more we're thinking of Krishna. And here, one of the most important points is not to get hung up in being too attached to the things of this world, because those attachments will bring us back into another body. So what are we going to do? We have to redirect that attachment. There's a beautiful set of verses. Many of you know about Kapila Dev, Lord Kapila Dev. He's one of the incarnations of Krishna. And he taught the Sankhya philosophy to his mother. There was also an atheist Kapila Dev who came much later. So at the beginning of his instructions to his mother, he has 8 verses describing the importance of associating with sadhus. He says, "Prasangam majanam pashamatmana kavayo vidu, sahesha sadhashukato moksha dwaram apapatam." Mundane attachments keeps us tied to birth and death, infernal. But love for sadhus opens wide the doors to life eternal. I put it into a poem. So the next question is, well, who's a sadhu? How do I find a sadhu? So then he gives this verse. It's kind of a very memorable verse. The qualities of a sadhu. Titikshava, karunika, suridak sarvadehinam, ajata shatravak shanta, sadhavak sadhubhushana. Here are the ornaments on the character of a sadhu. First of all, very tolerant. That's a very important thing, because this world is full with all kinds of provocations. The perfect example of all these qualities is Prahlad. You know who Prahlad is? Prahlad Maharaj? I'm not sure if he was a great devotee. He was just a little child, but he was instructed in the womb by Narada Muni, a great saint and father. You'd heard about that, yeah. And his father was Hiranyakashipu. Yes, a big demon. So here's this little boy, and he becomes a pure devotee in the womb. His father doesn't know he's a devotee, So he's sent him to school, and he comes back, and there's no report cards in those days, but he wanted to know, what did you learn in school today, right? So he takes him on his lap. He's his, beloved son. He smells his head, that whole thing. So Prahlad, he's the personification of speaking truth to power. Have you ever heard that phrase? It's not easy sometimes. So he says, he doesn't call him father. He says, "Oh, best of the demons." Tat saramanye asura varya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat hitvatma patam griyamandakupam vanam gatoya dharamashriyeta. Now, one thing to know, the context is Hiranyakashipu has a twin brother, Hiranyaksha. Now, both of the names have Hiranya in them, gold, right? So Hiranyaksha means he's always looking for gold. He mined, there's some evidence that he went to Brazil and he did a lot of mining there. So, but he was killed by Varahadev. You know the story, how the earth fell down into the Garbhodak ocean. And then Lord Varaha, Krishna appears as a big boar with a big snout. Why? So that he could get down the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean and bring the earth up. So while he's doing that, Hiranyaksha dives down in there and he's berating him and he's insulting. So then there's a big fight, and Varahadev kills Hiranyaksha. So this makes Hiranyakashipu super angry. That was his twin brother, So he hates the Lord, the idea that there's a God, because he became so powerful. He thought he was God. He was ruling the universe. It's austerities, the whole thing. So anyway, his wife is pregnant with Prahlad, and the demigods, he takes over the demigods, and they find his wife, and they want to arrest her and then kill Prahlad when he comes out, because they think he'll be a big demon. But Narada Muni comes and says, no, he's not a demon, he's a great devotee, you won't be able to kill him. Let her come to my ashram, and I'll instruct her, and when Hiranyakashipu comes out of his austerities, so that's what happens. So the wife is there, but she's in great anxiety. She's hearing, but it's going, this phrase, in one ear and out the other. She didn't benefit much from the instruction. But Prahlad did. He's in the womb. So by the time, when he comes out, he's a pure devotee, very advanced. So anyway, his father didn't know that, so what did you learn today, Prahlad? Tell me the best thing. So he chanted this verse. So here's the meaning of the verse. The word sadhu is there, but sadhu can mean just the best. Have you ever heard this phrase? If you read the Bhagavatam, Krishna's playing with his friends, and Krishna does something wonderful, and they say, "Oh, sadhu, sadhu." I remember when I first heard that, devotees would say that to some devotee who did something. Oh, they're calling him a sadhu. No, sadhu means bravo. They're bravo, bravo. It's like very good, very good. So the best thing, Father, that I learned, he doesn't call him Father, or best of the demons, Asuravarya. Tat sadhu manye, in my opinion, best for whom? Dehinam, for the embodied souls, in other words, for all of us. Who are, and this is very important, every word counts, sada samudvigna dhyam. Our consciousness or intelligence is always disturbed in this world. Why? Asadgrahat. Because we're taking shelter, we're eternal, we're sat, right? I told you that verse from the second chapter. We don't die. But we're taking shelter of the impermanent, beginning with our own body. I like to give the example, forgive me, you've heard it, those who attend the class all the time. The boat, we're right next to the ocean, right? So various people on this beach here, if they have enough money, they'll get a boat, put it in their driveway, and then they'll take it out and try to have fun on Sundays or something. All right, so you take out the boat once, twice, 100 times. 101st time, somehow a storm comes up and the boat capsizes. Oh my God, now we're thrown in the water. But luckily, we have these life preservers, So we're in the life preservers, and we contacted the National Coast Guard. They're coming to save us. But the life preservers have a leak. They're also leaking. Now, what's going to happen to us? Is it a sadgrahat? We're holding on to the impermanent for our life, but ultimately we fail. Like this body is like a life preserver. It's suitable for living for some time in this world, because you have to take care of it, sometimes it gets sick, but it's impermanent, and we know that, right? So it's really foolish to think that we could be happy in these bodies or get anything permanent in this material world. It is Maya's trick. Maya Devi is meant to rule us. So Prahlad, he knows that. He's just a little boy, 5 years old. He knows that. So what's the solution? That's the first two lines. Then he says, Hit vatna patam griyam andakupam. So griyam is household, but here it means materialistic household. Hiranyakashipu is the ideal, Griyam andakupam, it's like a blind well you fall into, and you can't get out, and you're doomed. If your whole life is simply in it. So give it up. Atmapatam, which impedes the progress of the soul, the atma, the soul. Atmapatam griyam. Then what should I do? Vanam gato, go to the forest, and all the comment. Yeah, that forest is Vrindavan, because the next phrase is Vanam gato yad hadamashrayeta, and take shelter of Hari. So that was like poison to Hiranyakashipu. Hari is his arch enemy. He just killed his brother. So he said, where did he learn this stuff? So he looked at the teachers, Shanda and Amarka. They were disciples of Shukracharya. They were sitting over there. What did you teach him? He said, we didn't teach him anything. We don't know where he learned it. They learned it in the womb, Anyway, it goes on like that. And every time Prahlad asks him a question, one time he says, Shravanam, what did you learn today, Prahlad? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Bhara. The 9 processes of devotional service. So finally, Hiranyakashipu decides that he's got to kill this son of his. He's like a poison tree in the forest. So he gives him over to his henchmen. But because Prahlad is 100% absorbed in Krishna, thinking of Krishna and taking shelter of Krishna, he can't be killed. This whole thing. They try to kill him in so many ways, and it's hair-raising. Put him in boiling oil, crush him under an elephant, stab him. He not only wasn't he killed, he wasn't hurt. He wasn't even crying out in pain. So his father, was like freaked out. How did this happen? How's he doing that? So ultimately, he tries to kill him himself, and you know what happens. Nrsingadev appears. comes out of the pillar. He says, "Where is your God? You're saying his God is everywhere. Is he in this pillar?" "Yes, Father, he's everywhere." "I don't believe it." And he has in one hand he's got his sword, he has a big fist. He hits the pillar, and a big sound, huge sound comes out, and a roaring of North Nigashave, and the whole universe is. And then he stupidly tries to fight with him, and he's torn apart. So the point is that Krishna reciprocates. This is a very important point. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Ye yatam apapadyante tam tataiva bhajamyaham." As any living entity surrenders unto me, I respond reciprocally, accordingly. If we take full shelter of Krishna and we rely on him for our maintenance and for our safety, then he'll protect us and provide for us. And Srila Prabhupada, he preached that and he practiced it. He showed it. Prabhupada came to America with nothing. He had 7 rupees, and that couldn't even be exchanged in America. He had no money. And he really didn't know anyone. He knew one friend of a friend in Butler, Pennsylvania, of all places, which has now become a world-famous city. If you don't know, and you're fortunate why you don't know about it. Anyway, so that was there, Western Pennsylvania. And there was a son of a devout devotee in India who Prabhupada knew. And he knew that his son was living in America, so he said, I'm going there. Can you write your son a letter and ask him to put me up for a couple of weeks, basically? He said, oh, sure. He had done it before with many other sadhus, and none of them had gone to America. And so the Sally Agarwal, she was the lady there, and her husband said, okay, we get another quest from Dad. He won't, he'll never come. Then they get a call from the bus stop, we'll probably get off the ship. Oh, he's here. The Swami is coming. So he came on the bus and he spent a week or 2 in Butler, Pennsylvania. So that's where he settled up. But he knew that's not going to, he's not going to do much preaching in Butler, Pennsylvania. So he made his way to New York City. Can you imagine? He's living in Radha Damodar Temple for many years, doing bhajan, having communion with the 6 Goswamis who studied, and the deities. But on the order of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and the prediction of Lord Chaitanya that my name will be known everywhere. Pradivityacha yadi nagar digram sarvata pachar hobe moranam. He predicted, and it's recorded in Chaitanya Bhagavat, that every town and village in the world will one day resound with my name being chanted. So to fulfill Lord Chaitanya's prediction and his spiritual master's order, he was 68 years old when he got on the ship, and it wasn't a cruise ship. It wasn't even an ocean liner. It was a cargo ship, and he had a little compartment there. It was a very rough ride. He had 2 heart attacks on the way, and he kept a diary, and he said, I knew that if I had a 3rd heart attack, I'd be finished. So Krishna came in a dream and said, don't worry, I'm going to take over the ship, So from then on, it was very smooth sailing. It was in the Atlantic Ocean during the hurricane season, when all kinds of storms blow up there in the Atlantic, but not this time, So Prabhupada, so many, a lot of struggle to start the movement and maintain the movement and travel all over the world in his old age. Prabhupada, talk about sacrifice, that was his sacrifice, his comfort, But so Prabhupada showed us the way, that this is how to please Krishna, and what's the reward for all that? You're existing on a high state of peace and bliss, even though all around you there's so many things are happening. But just like Prahlad, he never got agitated. He was always relying on Krishna. The same thing with Ambarish. He was a great king and everything, and this big demoness was created to burn him to ashes. But the chakra came and saved him and went after Durvasa Muni. You know the story? And Durvasa, he was a great yogi, but he was scared. He actually would have been benefited to be killed by the chakra, but he ran. I finally went to Vaikuntha and prayed to Vishnu, please take off your chakra. He says, I can't do anything. I'm under the control of my devotees. You have to go back down to Ambarish and get his mercy, and then you'll be saved. So there's all these stories in the Bhagavatam. And, many devotees have appreciated that. I mean, I'm, in my simple way, I'm not a pure devotee. But after all these years, 52 years, I'm getting any younger. I'll be 78 this year. But I'm not thinking, oh, I used to enjoy like this, now I can't enjoy like that anymore. I used to enjoy this food, that food, now I can't eat them. It's not like that. The Hare Krishna mantra is an endless source of happiness, isn't it? It's the holy name. Well, the holy name is really the center of the whole thing, because anyone who just takes part in a kirtan, a nice kirtan for some time, will experience something from that holy name, and then become interested. From inside, Krishna is saying, okay, now find a little bit more about the philosophy behind all this, so I become interested in reading and associating with devotees. And in this way, no matter who you are, what your background is, no hard and fast rules for this chanting and the benefit. So it's a great benediction, and we should take advantage of it. I'm sorry, I kind of got a little far afield from the Bhagavad Gita. But why don't we go on, if there's no questions, and we'll go on to text number what is it, 26, right? Yeah. Shotradyadini raja, excuse me, Shotradin indriyanyanye. Yeah, it's a little long word. Okay, well, we'll take it easy. Shotradin indriyanyanye. Sangyamagnishu jufati. Shabdadin vishayananya. Indriyagnishu jufati. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. And others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Okay, what does that mean? Purport. The members of the four divisions of human life, namely the brahmacharis, the grihasthas, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis. Now these are the four spiritual divisions. And we also, the different ashrams, but we also have social divisions. We have the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. So all of these divisions, all these members are all meant to become perfect yogis or transcendentalists. Since human life is not meant for our enjoying sense gratification like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmacharis, or students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding, and therefore the pure brahmachari engages fully in Harer Namanukirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, and meat eating are general tendencies of human society. But a regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratification. Marriage on the principles of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society, because that is the way for restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna, because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. Okay. So, this is the chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. Let's see. What was I going to say? Human life, as Prabhupada says the second sentence here, human life is not meant for enjoying sense gratification like the animals. So it's very clear throughout the books at different places that the key understanding is that we're making our destiny at every day, at every moment, by what we do with our senses, the consciousness that we create by how we engage in our senses. We have the choice, right? Like you all had the choice. You could go to the restaurant on the corner here rather than to come here, or even the bar. I don't think any of you would go to the bar, but you had that choice, and many others do. They walk by here, and they say, "Oh, that's the Hare Krishna temple." I know from when I reach this that a few steps further I'll be able to go to the bar where I'm really wanting to go. So you develop a desire through habit, right? And then you wouldn't, thousands of people wouldn't think of coming in here. All I know is that it has to do with God, that's not what I'm interested in. So this is it's a tragic state of mind, actually. And this is what the Kali Yuga is all about. It becomes more and more degraded. You find in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 12th canto, descriptions of how mercy will decrease more and more, longevity will decrease because people are unregular in their activities, they're eating all this and that. And after a whole chapter of that, Sukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit this key verse, again coming back to the holy name, Kaler doshana de rajan, asti eko mahan guna, kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha padam brajet. So much in that one verse. This Kali Yuga, Kaler means the time of Kali Yuga. Kaler doshana de, it's an ocean of faults. One thing after, everywhere you look. But there's one very special quality. Asti eko mahan guna. In the Kali Yuga, this Kali Yuga, where Lord Chaitanya appeared, Krishna appeared to Lord Chaitanya. He doesn't appear in every Kali Yuga. Kali dosha nirirajan asti eko mahan guna. What is that one quality? Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. By kirtan of Krishna's name, kirtan of Krishnasya, mukta sangha parambrajay. Now, mukta sangha is a very nice phrase because sangha is the key word. Just like it's sadhu sangha or satsang is in the English dictionary by now, right? So satsang is short for sadhu sangha. And sangha is a very interesting word. It means two basic things. It means association and it means attachment. And one produces the other. As you associate, you form your attachments. That's why a responsible parent always wants to know who their kid is hanging out with now, you know. And now they got to find, well, what sites are you going to on that little iPhone I bought you, you know. It's a lot harder than it used to be. But because by that association, you develop your attachment. That's the whole point. So mukta sangha here means, it's kind of shortcut language for saying becoming free from material attachments. And then what? Param Brajat. You go to the Param, the Paravyoma, the spiritual world. So this Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. There's so many dangers of bad association and bad, you know, harmful food. People go to the store, you know, to the grocery store, what do they call it? Huh? Yeah, well, the name of it, I'm thinking of Ralph's, you know, supermarket, the supermarket, right? So there's so many, you know, there's a whole, I go there sometimes for basically one thing, organic blueberries. I used to go for kale also because I make smoothies, but now the kale is so expensive, I just have this kale powder that I put in, it's economic. But organic blueberries you can get, and they're frozen. Huh? Oh, you grow kale? Is it? I'm sure it's organic, I'm assuming. Okay. All right, we'll talk about that later. So anyway, I go there, but to get to the blueberries, I have to go down an aisle. One of the aisles, it's all different alcoholic drinks, right in the supermarket. They didn't have a license in the old days. Now they have, you know, this beer, that beer, this beer. Oh my God, you know. And of course, there's a whole section where meat is sold and everything like that. You know, people don't know, and all these snacks with artificial, you know, harmful things in them. But hey, it tastes good, you know, let me go and do it, you know. So there's so many ways that you can get contaminated and get entangled in this world. Who knew? You know, you just go, when I grew up, I wasn't a vegetarian or anything. Oh, I remember when McDonald's was first established, you know, back in the like early 60s. I would go bowling every Saturday. And suddenly there was this place where we get this nice cheeseburger and fries, you know, before bowling, you know, as a young kid. But what was happening? I was committing so many sins like that, you know, the poor cows and everything, you know. So that's what this Kali Yuga is. Everywhere you look, you know, you get entangled in bad association and perform grievous sins and suffering and world wars. It's horrific. But there's one very special quality. Just by chanting Krishna's name, you can get free and Parambrajat, go to the supreme abode of Krishna. So we should take that opportunity. All right, so it's 8:10, so it's time for, this is my little signature for a class. I always live with some poems at the end. I think I gave one already. So what would be more, you know, pertinent than Shikshastika? You've heard of the Shikshastika? Lord Chaitanya's instructions on the holy name? The first verse practically is the foundational verse for this whole Hare Krishna movement. Cheto darpanamarjanam, bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam, sheyakaidavachandikavatanam vidyavadhu jivanam, anandam buddhivardhanam pratibadam purnamitasvadanam, sarvatmasnapadam padam vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Sri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge, which will take us to life's goal. The chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean here. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds, wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. That's the whole mission Lord Chaitanya gives in that one verse. So we should take advantage of that, learn about it, and you're always welcome to Bhagavad Gita class. I don't know if you live in the area, probably visiting, huh? Yeah, I figured, otherwise I would have seen you before. But as long as you're here, we have classes morning and evening, and I give these classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so we'll have another one tomorrow. And so we're out of time. We have to adjourn, and we'll open the curtains. We'll have a nice little kirtan. You'll see Radha Girid High. And I think we even have prasadam. Tacos. Did you have tacos already? Oh, it's Taco Tuesday. Free tacos. Anyway, there may just be the makings out there, but there's always prasadam if you're hungry. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.